Does England's bronze medal, third place finish at the Rugby World Cup, paper over the cracks, and does it even get some people off the hook? It's going to be interesting to discuss this one. It's England's World Cup report card. It's been a dismal, dismal time being an England fan. It certainly was between World Cups. How do you assess them post-World Cup? I'm going to give them a mark out of 10. I'll touch on how it was for England coming into the World Cup. I'd love to know what you think on this as well. And I will then talk about England in the future under Steve Borthwick. As ever, get stuck in the comments. Let's have a discussion there. I can imagine there'll be differences of opinions. Let's talk about it. Also, if you give the video a thumbs up, that really helps spread the word. It's just me talking about rugby. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit subscribe on the channel. So, yeah, let's just go back in time a little bit. It's weird, and I don't think this is English arrogance to say that England should expect to be winning World Cups whenever they go into them. That's just the nature of the England player pool, the resources they have. That should be the expectation. And so it was quite strange going into this World Cup with no expectation of England winning whatsoever, but with good reason, because got to a final in 2019. It was the youngest team ever to get to a World Cup final. You thought, right, if they keep these guys together, they're going to be awesome in 4 years' time. Didn't pan out that way. And I was there at Twickenham about a year ago when England lost their final autumn international game against South Africa, and I've never known Twickenham so negative, so hostile. There were boos for the England team as they walked off the pitch. And at that moment I thought, right, well, Eddie Jones is done, as it proved to be the case. Steve Borthwick came in, but through 2023 it was much the same. That dismal performance and a defeat to Scotland at home at Twickenham in one of Steve Borthwick's first games was really, really poor. And you started to think, oh no, have we got rid of Eddie Jones, but we've kind of got Eddie Jones Mark II. I mean, Steve Borthwick worked under Eddie Jones for Japan in 2015, with England in 2019. But what I will defend Steve Borthwick on this and say he is an exceptional rugby coach. And I think we got glimpses of that. I think he will now show it in the future, because he was working on a sped up time frame. He only had 9 months, not even 9 months, before he had to pick his World Cup squad, and a handful of games, and he was hamstrung by the players he was allowed to bring in and out of the elite squad due to kind of the politics, which is all very boring stuff. But the point being, he wasn't able to do what he did at Leicester Tigers. What he did at Leicester Tigers was win a premiership. He took a team that were bottom of the table pretty much, and he was happy to endure a little bit of pain and keep them bottom of the table whilst he got rid of a load of older guys that weren't as effective anymore, and put his faith and put the development into guys that he really believed could be part of the club's future. Guys like Freddie Stewart and George Martin and Ollie Chesham, who are all now doing it in England jerseys. And I think we will see that kind of journey for Steve Borthwick's England over the coming years. But it was not pretty at the start. And you only got to look at that defeat to Fiji at Twickenham just before the World Cup. So when you're judging England's World Cup performance, you have to consider that they came into it. And I think this was the main opinion. I don't know if you remember, but England, yes, they were helped by the draw in a pool with Argentina, Samoa and Japan. Okay, fine. But I think most people thought England would finish second in the pool and Argentina would finish top. There were many people that thought England may not get out of the pool because they could end up losing to Samoa, possibly even Japan. There was a lot of people thought if England do get through to the quarterfinals, it's kind of 50-50 whether they'll get through against Australia, Wales or Fiji. And then everybody pretty much thought if and when England get to a semi-final, they will not just lose, they will get absolutely panned by one of the good teams. So that's the context. I think you can see the fact that Steve Borthwick had to do things on a sped up trajectory in terms of developing his actual team by some of the selections that were made. And Eddie Jones got a lot of criticism for selections. Alex Mitchell and Johnny May both started a Rugby World Cup semi-final and played brilliantly in it. And they weren't even in Steve Borthwick's original 33-man World Cup squad. Ben Earl never got a look in really under Eddie Jones, the odd little game here and there. Same with Steve Borthwick, didn't really use him. Then he got to the World Cup, gave him a shot, and he was absolutely brilliant. And he might not have got a shot were it not for Tom Curry and that red card against Argentina. So it's funny how these things go. So I think that the team will evolve. But in terms of the actual performance at a World Cup, it started with that win in Marseille. I was there and the atmosphere was electric. The England fans there, whilst it was a pragmatic game plan from England, partly due to that red card, George Ford was brilliant. England showed a lot of dog and a lot of fight and spirit, and it was a great win against a poor Argentina team on that day. And that kind of set them up for the group. Never overly convincing, but just kind of doing enough. The win against Japan in Nice, I was there for that as well. I wasn't in Lille for the win against Chile, but the lowest ranked team in the competition, Henry Arundel scoring 5 tries, and suddenly everyone going, pick Henry Arundel, let's play an attacking style of rugby and change the way things go. Steve Borthwick was never, ever going to do that, and I don't think he should have done because of the timescale that I said he was on. Samoa was the one where the negativity felt like it had crept in again. Owen Farrell missing the shot clock, and Samoa feeling like they were hard done by. England just about doing enough to get through. Fiji, what's interesting about that is the Fiji game, I was in Marseille for that one too, and I never thought, even when Fiji pulled scores level, I never thought England weren't going to win. And I don't know if that was Steve Borthwick's mentality or the team growing a little bit, but I always thought they would have enough. And so it proved. It wasn't totally convincing, but they did the job. I think this was the night, the semi-final in Paris. That was the night that Steve Borthwick's reign as England head coach really began, because, you know, there's been some people trying to say it was negative and it was boring and all the rest of it. I thought it was an absolutely gripping rugby match. I thought the best team ultimately won, but I was so proud to be an Englishman on that night in Paris, because England showed unbelievable heart. And this is no small statement to make with regards to Steve Borthwick. On that night, he outcoached Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber. And that fills me with a lot of optimism moving forward. He came up with a plan. He recognised the limitations of his team. He recognised the strengths of South Africa. And he came up with a game plan specifically to beat South Africa. And his team went out and, I was going to say, perfectly executed it. They perfectly executed it for 68 minutes. And then South Africa, as they did throughout the World Cup, found a way. And England, you could argue, were a couple of props away from a World Cup final. 1 point, 100 points, doesn't really matter. England were knocked out at the semi-final stage. But I was really, really proud of the performance. And when you go back and look at the videos in the channel, the second Steve Borthwick named his semi-final team, there were many people going, "What, Johnny May and no Henry Arundel?" Go back and look at the video. I said, this is bang on. This is England's chance to win. And I was more bullish and optimistic about England at that point than at any point for a couple of years. And so it proved in the semi-final. They almost got there. And for that reason, I'd give England a 7 out of 10. Is that the same score I gave Ireland? I think it is. Is that fair? I think the context is the expectations. The expectation was England, if they got through to a semi-final, and many people were thinking they wouldn't, if they got to a semi-final, they would get smashed. England are sat there probably thinking, should have been in a World Cup final. We can talk about the future and what it holds for England. I'd love to know what you think about that score and about my assessment of England's World Cup. Tell me what you think. Get stuck in the comments. And let's talk about the future next. But first, let's talk about your future desk, because this is mine. Nice, isn't it? Yeah, this is my FlexiSpot E7 Pro desk. This is where the magic happens. It's where I make the content for the channel. I do a lot of radio and audio work here as well. So I need a nice desk because I spend a lot of time sat here. Although actually, I don't just spend a lot of time sat here. This is next generation, motorised, height adjustable. I spend a lot of time stood here as well. Perfect. We don't want to be on your feet. I've also got, there's 4 presets on this. Sitting, standing, I've got set up. I do have an Eben Etzebeth setting. Just in case, Eben, you're ever in town, need somewhere to work, you're more than welcome. Just pop over, mate. There you go. Perfect for you, right? And I've got one more setting, which is my setting for when England lose. And I just want to hide from everybody. I come here like this, see? No one can find me. Have a look, some great offers there. You could get one of your own. The FlexiSpot E7 Pro desk. So let's talk about where England go from here. Now, in the wake of the World Cup semi-final defeat, and I just characterised it as maybe being 2 props away from a World Cup final, England have wasted no time in setting up a scrum pathway for its players, trying to identify talent at younger ages and develop the talent that England do have. I think this is, no question, England's Achilles heel. The problem is it was England's Achilles heel in 2019 and not enough was done about it. And there are reasons for this. We're not producing the talent at this level. I think part of that is due to the nature of the English Premiership. which seems to have gone away from the scrum as a weapon. Now, is this? I don't know if this is my perception or if this is reality. My perception is that in France and in South Africa, they absolutely love the scrum. They love it. The domestic leagues love it. The fans love it. The media appreciates it. The pundits love it. Whereas in England, let me tell you, it is constant negativity. There are commentators on the telly who just moan about scrums in game. The media moan about it, and as a consequence, I think fans get on it. Referees referee it differently, and it's just taken the scrum as a weapon away. And there's all this emphasis put on all this attacking rugby, so you get lean, lightweight, ball-playing props who cannot do the fundamentals on the international stage. And so I think there needs to be a mindset shift in England that the scrum is a massively important part of rugby. And I think actually, to some degree, England just need to pick big lumps in their team. Because had we had another Joe Marler and another Dan Cole to come off the bench, England are in a World Cup final. It was that simple. But we didn't. We had Ellis Genge and Kyle Sinclair, who can do loads of things that many props can't, but they didn't manage to do the basics, and it cost England. I do think we have talent out there that could do a job right now. I look at Will Collier at Harlequins, a big lump. If he was South African, he'd have 10 international caps already by now. Big unit, hard to move. I would say get him straight in there. And I'm not, the England scrum pathway is going to be developing the next generation of props. I'm not bothered about that now. I want to win the Six Nations in February, March the next year. 3 months' time, I want Steve Borthwick to be picking a team that can win there and then, not thinking about 2027. If you take care of all the games between now and 2027, trying to win all of them, 2027 will take care of itself. Yes, there's some development angle you need to look at and evolve the style of play and all the rest of it. But fundamentally, go out there to win rugby games. Will Collier is a man that can help do that. So is Val Rapava-Ruskin. I cannot understand why he wasn't picked in Steve Borthwick's World Cup squad. He is a giant man. He's half Georgian, for goodness sake, and his legs are as thick as most people's torsos are. Get the guy in. He's a beast. And I also think Fraser Balmain, it's a shame for him that he got injured in a World Cup year. He was playing brilliantly for Gloucester last season. He's 31 now, but that's plenty young enough. In fact, some would argue prime age for a prop. Hopefully he can get fit and firing as he was. And he might be someone that England could have a look at as well. In the back row, where Courtney Lawes has retired, where actually England are pretty well stocked. I don't think they've got many problems there, but Tom Pearson is one guy I would like to see involved. And I would pick him, and I'm interested in him even before I'm interested in Zach Mercer or Tom Willis. Tom Pearson is a difference maker, and I think he could be a really, really good international player. Along with Ben Earl, he was the best back row player in the Premiership last year. Look what Ben Earl's done. I think Tom Pearson, given time, an opportunity, could do the same job as well. And in the back three, where Johnny May's retired, and where I think there is some debate about who England's best players would be, Anthony Watson wasn't available in the World Cup. He is England's best winger, in my humble opinion. And when you talk about youngsters, no, I'm not going to pull up a picture of Henry Arundel, who I think is a brilliant attacking player. And I'm not knocking Henry Arundel. What he does brilliantly. And I think we should definitely celebrate that. But look at Cheslin Colby and Kurtley Arendse, the amount of defensive work they did, the amount of kick chasing they did. Actually, look at the semi-final and final for South Africa, and their wingers did hardly anything in an attacking sense. They put in incredible levels of work and defensive effort. And Kurtley Arendse's try-saving tackle in that World Cup final, one of the most amazing bits of play from the entire World Cup on Rieko Ioane, and contributed to South Africa winning a World Cup. So Henry Arundel's got to do those things, and he's not doing those things at the moment. And for that reason, even above Arundel, Caden Murley, that's your guy. High work rate, massive defensive energy, which you need at international level, and he's a supreme finisher as well. So he is a guy, even above Arundel, that I want to see involved in the England squad, and I really hope he is for the Six Nations moving forward. I'm optimistic about the future. A mindset shift in terms of the scrum, getting some big lumps on the field, making little tweaks here and there with personnel, but overall, I'm optimistic, and I hope that England aren't worrying about 2027 now. They're thinking about the Six Nations and winning that, because it's been a miserable time going to Twickenham, and the people that spend a lot of money going there deserve a lot better. And I think, like I say, Steve Borthwick's reign as England head coach began properly at that semi-final. I think there's more optimism in the air now as a result of it, and I hope we carry that forward. I'd love to know what you think. Am I deluded? Am I right to be optimistic? Have I assessed things correctly or incorrectly? Tell me what you think in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.